Hello everyone, can you hear me? I've been coming to CrossRoads for nearly 10 years now, and this is my testimony about my walk with Jesus. The book of John is my favorite book in the Bible, and one of them is 1 John 8:7. Let any one of you who is without sin cast the first stone. I was born January 6, 1958 in Concordia, Kansas, fourth of 6 kids, 5 boys and 1 girl. So my earliest memories are of Sabbath school, on my grandma and grandpa Summers' farm. They lived on a farm west of Minneapolis, Kansas. They were Seventh-day Adventists, so we had church on Saturday, not Sunday. Since the closest church was in Salina, they had church at their house. There was Sabbath school for us kids, which was usually my Aunt Judy reading out of the Bible storybooks. Then finished out the day playing in my grandpa's junkyard. I spent the first 20 years of my life in Ottawa County, living in Delphos, then Minneapolis, and back in Delphos. Then puberty hit. Being a guy in my mind was only 2 things, girls and cars. It was April 21st, 1977, my dad's 45th birthday. I was 19 years old. I worked on a farm east of Delphos. I was leaving town in my 67 GTO. I looked down to turn the radio on. When I looked back up, a car ran a stop sign. I was speeding. I swerved to miss her, lost control, slid sideways into a pole. The car spun around and hit a tree. They say I was going 60 to 70 miles per hour. I wasn't wearing a seat belt. The ambulance came, took me to Minneapolis. They wheeled me into the ER, and they bet my dad came in, and he looked as white as a ghost. I was given a shot. The next thing I knew, it was 3 days later, I was in the Asbury Hospital intensive care unit. I'd wake up for a bit, then pass out again. One time when I came to, my grandma was looking at me, holding my hand. She told me, "You need to thank God you're still alive." After a week, I finally was awake for longer periods of time. That's when the doctor came to see me. He told me, "You are very lucky to be alive, young man." I had broken my jaw in 5 places, fractured the top vertebrae in my back, and broken my right ankle. If my vertebrae would have been broken, it would have left me paralyzed from the neck down, if not dead. I was in the hospital for 3 months, in traction for 6 months. My jaw was wired shut for 5 months. I went from 200 pounds down to 140 pounds. Over the next few years, I often thought about the accident what my grandma said about thanking God and almost dying. Later on, I was 23, lived in Minneapolis with 1 child. My best friend, John, lived up the street. I would go there often to visit and party. One time I went there. He told me he had been saved. I didn't drink or do drugs anymore. My first thought was, oh no, my best friend had turned into a Jesus freak. We still talked often, and I began to notice how he had changed, and it was all for the good. I asked him how he did it. He told me he prayed to Jesus and asked him to forgive him all his sins. But you have to believe it in your heart. A few weeks later, I was at work on break thinking about how crappy my life was. I wasn't happy unless I was high, and then if I was out, I spent my time trying to find more. I got to thinking about my friend and how he'd changed all for the better. Then I got this overwhelming urge to pray. I asked Jesus to forgive me and take control of my life. It was hard to explain the feeling that came over me. Joy, peace, and I even took and threw my bong into the river. I started going to weekly Bible study given by Bert Hawkins. I had known him all my life. He was a retired Minneapolis police officer, a truant officer. I knew this because he often had to come get my brother Joe and take him to school. I really liked going there. My in-laws attended a church there in town. We started going there weekly, but I never liked it, never felt at home there. I got baptized there. I think it was just to please the in-laws. I got more out of Bert's classes on Tuesday night than I did at the church. A few years later, I lost my job and moved back to Salina, away from my Bible study friends. One evening, one thing led to another, and the old life crept back in. My love for pot. My marriage had never been a good one, and it ended after 7 years. As I think back, I can't help but wonder if it might have been different if I hadn't strayed away from God. In 1990, I met my now wife, Deanna. We moved in together. After a few more years, she started coming here to CrossRoads Church. She kept talking about how different it was. I was working Sundays, driving a cab, and couldn't come, but I found the CrossRoads radio show on the radio. I would listen to it every Sunday. It felt like Bishop Ron Bull, then Pastor Ron, was talking directly to me. All this time, I still felt like I was missing something. I asked to start having Sundays off and started coming every week. I noticed how everyone was casually dressed, everyone is friendly, and didn't feel like I was being judged by everyone like it was been at my previous church. I like the sermons by Pastor Ron Bowl and Pastor Jesse. They have small groups here, and they didn't have at my last church. I enjoy the men's group on Wednesday nights. I've been going to it for several months now, and it's taught me a lot. Like Bishop Ron always says, you need more than one dose of church a week. I feel so at home here. As I was baptized again a few years ago at Lake Wassee and officially joined the church. I have a good, strong relationship with God once again. I love God, I love my life, and I love my church. I close with another verse from the book of John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Thank you for listening.